Hi, folks. We're Tassless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the scourge of activist judges and magistrates that have been spread out throughout the entire Western legal system. So, in my view, at least, there's more than half of the judges in the legal system are activists. Now, it can vary sort of jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but there are certainly a lot there. Now, some are at the extreme end of the activism. Some are activists in a sort of more moderate sense, but activists nonetheless. These are people who have come through law school saying that evil white man is Hitler, Nazi swastika. They're oppressing and the LGBTQ and minorities and so on, restorative justice. So they've had their heads filled with this. Now, you think in a legal system that's meant to be objective, relying on facts, that you wouldn't let people like that anywhere near a judicial appointment. But in fact, the opposite is the case. The political left has been shoving these people in at every opportunity. And even the political right isn't making sure that constitutional judges are appointed. Even them, they'll allow moderate activists to be put in judge positions of judgeship rather than putting in constitutional judges, which they could do. So there's been an all-round failure, and I guess it's the uni-party type perspective. But there is definitely and has been for more than 20 years, I would argue. But I think it's been ginned up and has reached fever pitch recently. The Democrats in the United States celebrated just how many activist judges they put into senior judicial positions in the United States, as if it was some sort of wonderful thing. Hey, we're not going to rely on facts or evidence anymore. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Can you imagine that? I mean, these people, do they not realize they're destroying the entire edifice of the Western jurisprudence and the rule of law and facts and evidence? It doesn't appear to occur to them. I don't know if they care. But I just wanted to have a look at just how does this play out in the real world. And I want to go on to the corruption that's employed to make sure that activist judges hear certain cases. Now, here's an example here. There's a couple of guys or a few people that are saying prayers outside of an abortion clinic, and they're white, straight white males, and another straight white male comes along and much younger, much fitter, and beats them up. And we're talking getting one of these guys was like pushing 70, got him on the ground and was just swinging and punching away and really going for it, and going for it with full malice. Now, you'd think such a brazen and blatant case of assault that the guy would do prison time for this. So somehow magically, out of a court of over 30, I think 34, 35 judges in this court, the most activist, radical judge was given the case to hear. Now, that's not an accident. That was purposeful. So we're looking at a corrupted court administration, corrupted local government. The whole thing is corrupted and being jigged to produce woke, social justice, politicized, ideological type outcomes. Now, the facts of the matter are that without provocation, this guy, this young man he was in his 20s, started beating the crap out of these men that were older. They didn't know each other or anything like that. Just jumped on and started beating them up. Now, this is a very clear case. It's malicious assault. I mean, that's what it is. Now, things like that usually require some pretty serious penalties. But in this case, given injury and hospitalisation and all that sort of stuff, so this activist judge was selected to hear the case. Now, the prosecution wanted to have prison term put in here. I think the prosecution were actually a bit lukewarm on it. I don't think they made an effort to really go after them. This is the public prosecutor. I don't think they made much of an effort. I think they were, really reluctant to do it from ideological reasons. The people, the pro-life guys that got beaten up, they had it coming to them. The fucking damn Nazis. And I think that attitude prevailed there. Anyway, the judge, the most activist judge out of the 34 judges in the court, is assigned the case. That's no accident. So it needs to make this happen. The state government, because they appoint the judge, the state government is involved here in this corruption. The administration of the court, the court administrators and operations managers, this sort of thing, all those people are involved. So they're making sure that this activist judge gets to hear the case. Now, in spite of the seriousness of it, the guy only didn't get any prison time and has a good behaviour bond. That's it. I think there was some other stuff like an anger management course or something. But now someone's paid the guy's legal fees. So where did that money come from? So we're talking about someone here who's brazenly broken the law and assaulted people just because they have the wrong political views, viciously assaulted them, by the way, gets no jail time, has no costs or penalties imposed. He has lost his job, so I suppose that's something. But, he's just, as I understand, just moved in with his folks. So, he's not like he's on the street or something. So this guy really has no penalty. He's got no cost. The legal fees of a case like that could bankrupt someone of modest means. So that's all been taken care of. Now let's look at the same sort of thing where there's a guy saying prayers outside of an abortion clinic, straight white guy outside of an abortion clinic. That's it. Doesn't assault anyone, doesn't manhandle anybody or anything like that, or yell, obscenities or profanities or someone is just there with the prayer. Now that guy gets a full FBI visit, so the SWAT team, body armor, the whole thing, come and kick his door down at 6 a.m. He's dragged off and gets. They're trying to put him in prison for again. An activist judge gets to hear the case. Won that. Now on a random basis, when you've got 34 judges, you've got 3% chance that you're going to get the activist judge. But if you look at the cases here, these sensitive cases that are ideological, whether it's LGBTQ or race issues or issues that are of concern to the globalist woke left, if they're issues that are dear to their hearts, they somehow have this incredible ability to have activist judges appointed to hear the case. So if one of their number is accused of something, there's no real penalty. But if they drag someone into court who has views and ideologies they don't like, then again the activist judge is more than happy to throw them in prison. So there's a guy who's putting around signs saying it's okay to be white, gets 2 years in prison. So we've got here a legal structure. Not only are the activist judges there, but they make sure that one of their activist brethren gets to hear the case, is appointed to hear the case, and delivers a verdict which is very much consistent with the globalist leftist woke ideology. And they ignore the facts and so on. Now it's different when someone's got the financial means to appeal. That changes it. But even if the judges think, these activist judges think it's likely the person may make an appeal, then they'll assign very heavy costs and penalties that they have to pay within 14 days or go to prison. So they'll try and economically, crush them so that they can't make the appeal or do the appeal. So these things are all going on. So this is blatant political activism conducted from the bench and there's various layers here again, certain state and regional governments, the court operations people, the clerks and the paper pushers in the court administration. All of these people are on board with it. And also you get a level of compliance from the prosecutors. They'll just do a very half-hearted effort at prosecuting the ideological friend, and they'll go in very hard, no expense spared in prosecuting the ideological enemy. But it's based around the ideology, not about the facts or the evidence. And if they've got to prosecute someone like this guy who was beating people up, they've got to prosecute him. They'll leave out key evidence. They'll just forget. We didn't file the documents on time. which then, and the judge seems to know about this in advance. So the judge, well, I can't really rule prison time for this guy because you dudes didn't file the documents on time. And it's clearly a prearranged, arrangement where the judge could then is off the butt. They didn't file the evidence. What can I do? I'm only upholding the law, when in fact it was a prearranged thing. Look, we'll fail to file the proper documents. That'll then give you an excuse to let this guy off. Okay, good. So they're clearly liaising in background. They're texting each other. The NGOs are acting as intermediaries or other people. And this is the extent, the massive extent, colossal extent, all across the Western world of activism in the judicial space. So this is something I believe needs to be looked at very closely, that if there is collusion, conspiracy to not deliver justice and not to follow the law and uphold the rules of evidence, and this is a prearranged thing, which it clearly is, then prosecutions have to be made, and people have to go to prison for this. You've been with Tass Australia Pushback Channel, and thank you for listening.